Bum ba da ba 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 da ba 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 da bum ba 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 da ba 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 da ba da ba da ba 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 da ba 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 da ba ba. Oh, sorry. I was like concentrating at something else. Ah, sorry. Things is doing good. Things is doing good. I am posting stuff to show my work and stuff, and yee. Still working on quite a lot of animation stuff, but I did most of the rough animations, like this one. So later on, I will like fully drawn out the full animations later on today. But before today, I also need to do another illustrations. If you guys don't know, yeah. Yeah, this is you, Good King. This is you. This is you. Haven't finished drawing it. It's just a sketch at the moment. Not even the full sketch. I might have to redo the entire post, but I just generally plot out your character face. Bum 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 bum. Yeah, there's still quite lots of things I do want to like start with, this and that other stuff. Want to relax a little bit while I'm drawing, you know. I do want to take my sweet ass time sometimes, but I don't think I have the energy to like take my sweet ass time. Ooh, my back. Let's play some music. Technically, the stream started quite abruptly because like I didn't intend to start this early. I forgot I switched to this scene. But either way, again, hello to everyone. My name is Kirifaku and I'm your host and your voice here to entertain you and may not have no idea what I'm doing. If you guys don't know what, if you guys like curious of like what I was doing, I was writing a collab content post, request post. Let's see who went in. Of a abiotic factors thingy. Gosh dang it. Hold on a little bit. Why? You know what? Like I say again last time, I said that I'm going to stop streaming in Cake if I ever see another bot post like that. I have to deal with that like time to time. I'm so sick of it. No more streaming Cake. Technically, like, it's just temporarily. I just want to, like, teach them lessons. Well, I'm not a very, like, big streamer in the first place, so that doesn't really help. Imagine a big-ass streamer saying that, they definitely will do something about it. So far, I think the animation is already like, technically the frame rate animation is already finished. I'm just going to add like a few more stuff later on. Before I start this one, I do need to redraw this a little bit more. You know, every day I have a little bit progression on everything. And where's my gosh dang glove? Here. Sorry, yesterday I drank some like coffee, a very potent coffee, by the way. So I didn't manage to get a wink of sleep yesterday. Bit still not used to this angle. I really need to draw a lot more to kind of like get a hang of this weird ass angle. Maybe I need to lower this down a little bit more. And I did do a lot of like hand exercise, so I'm trying to give you like a not shark teeth, a little bit much more sharper teeth. I just randomly draw it first because I need to establish like the facial structures, the hairstyle. Because the reference you gave me have nothing. It's just a short head. Okay, I have to make you kind of like mafia sleek head, at least. Since you do look like a mafia character. I am designing your character up. What no reference? Your reference is your like the very basic like almost like like round drawing thingy. So I do have to modify when I have to draw your characters. Like the theme around your character, it looks like mafia character from the noir era, like from the 80s or like the 50s. Like noir era kind of like timeline is a little bit different. The mafia functioning. They're not like those kind of like like the prohibition era kind of like mafia thingy going on there. But yours is more like if you watch Helsing, it technically is that one. Well, technically, mafia character, it is loan shark in some sense. So you are a tax collector. Illegally. Then I'll draw your... I have to draw various version of you, see which one click. Do you want like a much more like manlier like face, or like those kind of like villain looking like face? Something like this, much more sharp jaw. Those kind of like thin, tall gentlemen with like those kind of like sharp chin, pointy cheek. I don't think I can add a pointy cheek that well. Yeah, too high the face, the eyes. Why do I suddenly feel like draw you as a Valorant character? That's like a Valorant character looks like you. I guess it's the glasses. I kind of string down glasses a little bit. Yeah, you should write down a little bit of your character description a little bit so I can like nail your character much more closer. I think I got the gist of the idea of how the character is going to look like. Like this current one I made so far. If you think this one is a little bit okay or you want to change a little bit, let me know. Okay, okay. That's fine. I got the gist of the ideas. The SCP character that actually just look like your characters. And also the way they do stuff. Right. I mimic some of the butler style of like aesthetic onto your characters, and then like add a little bit of like those kind of like olden, much more older like Western style. Giving a black glove, a little bit Asian-like, a little bit mafia-like, also a little bit of like those kind of like era kind of like Now I just need to find a suitable characters. I should give him some shady character look by having high angle shot so it's like looking down on him. I think I'll be focusing on like the one I did all like fingers. Shooting up, but this time a little bit much more accurate on the face and stuff. Gave you a little bit too big of a hat. Small hat, small hat. Nah, it's fine, it's fine. Let's hope it's not on my end. Not... Yeah, it's not my end. So with this, I'm going to draw a more detailed version of this. Just the face, just the face. Because I feel like the face is lacking a lot. I want to keep the face. The pose is not good enough, but it's generally going to be somewhat similar to this one. Well, it is just a sketch, so it's not really fully finished yet. Well, I did just have some of the element. I tried my best to like add a few more stuff to make him much more cooler and more shady. I should put my QR code in there too in the features. And maybe after I finish making the sketch of this one. Yeah, the general sketch of this guy is done. I'll draw more detail later on, but yeah, it is as far as I can go at the moment. I might change a little bit of how the body angles work. This might be generally what he looks like, I guess. Ah, my shoulders. There's a lot of cracking. I personally don't really like go chase music. I just play music and let it, just autoplay itself. I am quite a tone deaf person. So try not to talk music with me is going to be very frustrating for you. I can enjoy music, but I don't have taste in music. Because for me, it's almost like any music is fine, as long as it doesn't, make me dizzy. One of the reasons I can't appreciate music as much as I wanted is actually my ear have some issues, so I can't actually hear that well. So for me, music is just a means to drown out the noise that my ears is hearing. Because my ears like constantly ringing. So more or less you can say like the best choice I have is just to have music blasting off. Not too loud, it's just like good enough to drown out like the ringing inside my ears. Imagine like you always have like ringing like 24/7 like happening to your ears. More or less, if you live long enough with it, you sort of like don't care about it, but it does sometimes bother you to a point that it does drive you crazy. So based on my hearing, I would say like most music for me is just like smoother noise or like worse noise. Well, I say like you can enjoy anything you want, but asking for my opinion, you get disappointed. Since I always avoid like musical topic, even though I'm not actually tone deaf, but I'm so ignorant to music, I just any question about music, I just tends to avoid it to a point that it's like fucking cancer. Because it would just like disappoint everyone. Especially the way I view music. So if you ask anything about music, I'm going to say this thing again. I don't care. No matter how good the lyrics is, really, it's just noise for me. Like some people like Japanese songs, like no, don't know the lyrics. Very like smooth noise. or like, you know, like they treat like people singing like music itself. So I'm like those kind of people that don't give a shit about the lyrics. Made fun with it, sometimes take a jabs at it, like Pump Up Kid. So it's like I might take a jab of like some music, but like for fun, but ultimately the way I talk about music, especially for people who really love music, okay? Especially for people who really love music, I'm ultimately is just disrespecting it in the most cases sense. Because again, no music sense. I don't view music how most people view music the way they do. It's just going to be very gnarly. So again, try not to have too much music talk. Unless I personally delve into it, it's like it's a topic I like stay away from miles away. I'm a Malaysian. Guess my time. It's like 2 p.m. I didn't pinpoint it. Exactly, a vending machine is more like those kind of like mall car. The chill, you know, like you can let kids ride like a stationary like mall stuff. Man, my hand is very tired. Currently, I'm doing like animation thingy. Haven't really like started yet. I'm just right now drawing the detail and everything. I got most of the thing like separate. Let me try to zoom it in first before I render it. Sorry, I sound a little bit tired because I am. Man, yesterday I drank like a very, very potent coffee. I didn't sleep at all the entire night. So right now I'm actually a little bit very tired. Yeah, there's like mall stuff. I haven't like finished most of the thing, but I got most of the frame timing and spacing already like fixed up. Especially this one, I kind of like rendered it separately. Haven't really done it, finished like the everything yet, but so like look like this. Yeah, the reason I didn't draw the lower jaw is because like, you know, like if you ever been to like very tacky mall that have like this kind of very like tacky like model, the shark mouth is like the bottom part is not like colored in at all because they put the machinery underneath, so they didn't bother to sculpt the bottom part of the shark at all. So I trying to like give that feelings. Since I'm drawing them a little bit like, I do have to give them a little bit of movement and bendy stuff like going on in there. This is another art commissions I have. I'm drawing Good Kings. It's just a sketch at the moment. I have so many works to do. I have to like do quite a lot of them. This is some of the work I did to teach people about animations. This is lower frame budgets. This is higher frame budgets. Generally, people can't see the difference. Just slightly, you will feel like this thing is slightly smoother. It's just that. And then there's this one. This is draw like a lots of movement with as least frame as possible. Technically, when it comes to actions, it's always 4 action frame. I did say like when I study, it's like 5 action state, but if you combine like action A, B, C, D, E, F, G, so each action's supposed to be moved for 4 frame. They shouldn't have like 5 frame per actions. It's like initially they can start as 5 frame, but while in motions, combine motion A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all those frame tend to be 4 frame, 4 frame, 4 frame. Unless you want to draw a much more higher frame rate kind of like drawing per second, so it will be higher, then you have a little bit different rules when it comes to it. Currently, I'm developing a low budget rule, because you draw less means like you can charge people cheaper. I get more like customer. Why I need to charge cheaper? Because here's the thing, like if you charge like one artwork for cheap, no matter how cheap it goes down, it's still like how should I like say this? The cheap in animations is expensive for illustrations. If anyone pay an illustration before, like the bare minimum price, okay, for a full body like drawing, okay, full body illustrations, a little bit good rendering, a little bit this, a little bit that, like sprinkle lots of things into it with a decent qualities, I would say people would charge them like around $60 to like $70, okay. But when it comes to the animations, you already can see I draw multiple drawing in each frame. 1 second, if it's just like a loop animation like this, I'm just going to draw 5, 6, 7 frame, just that. So 5, 6, 7 like drawing is in there, but it is 5, 6, 7 drawing. Assume that you draw like everything in like 1 hour, 1 drawing per hours. It's going to be hella expensive. So even no matter how much I cheapen it, it's still going to be more expensive than the average illustrations with decent qualities. More expensive than like the cheapest like animations will be more expensive than average like decent illustrations. But people, their eyes is like, the value they see is like very dumb. Sometimes they can't like put price into stuff properly, okay? Because they can't put price into it properly, they would see me charge like 1 second of animations. I assume that the most generous way, $75 per second. Okay, I'm losing a lot of money here. Even I say seven like $75 per second. Imagine you do like a 5 second animations just for alert message for streamers, or just like a funny loop that is required like maybe like 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, something like that. Is going to be like hundreds of dollars. So it's not really in many ways, like when people look at it, especially when it comes to animation, you cannot draw a high quality things. Technically you can, but if you're working alone, it's generally you try your best to simplify, which the artwork is just good enough to see in animations. But the problem is, because it's just good enough, people compare their eyes and the pricings. They pay for like a decent illustrations and a very, very cheap animations. They would say like you are gouging their fucking price by charging the audacity of charging people $75 per second animations with this level of drawing, and you don't even color it properly. Like, well, cell shading for a lot of people is like they see it as the low budget coloring, you know. So when I do those kind of things, people get complained, and they say your price does not justify the animations. Which, even you put it in the cheapest, people will still see it that way. That's like the saddest thing in the world, to be honest. Currently, I'm just trying to put myself a little bit more effort to teach people this kind of stuff, so they will at least know a little bit why animations, especially frame by frame animation, is frame by frame, frame to frame, like depends on how you're going to call it, the lingo, is going to be expensive. Why the reason is, you draw multiple image. Even though some image, it literally looks like a slightly variation of the image, like you can see this one, and then this one is just slightly different image. Okay? They will still think that you didn't put a lot of work into it. Like animations like this one, okay? Every single frame is a completely different image, but I do have a few frames supposed to be look similarly, just like a little bit of nudge, but those were the much more like slower movement. This is the faster movement, so I removed some of the frame there. But if I add in back like most of the frame there, you can see like frame 1 is gone. So if I add like frame 1 into it, this and that other stuff, like compact the animations, making it like slower and slower looking because you're seeing more frame. That's the reason why I draw more frame than it's supposed to, because like that's like 3 state I need to add into this particular animations. I'm doing some experiment. Um, so basically, this kind of like start with like full energy kind of like car, but since it's 50 cents, you don't really get a value from it. So like just, you know, this thing like walk a little bit and then power down. So I want to put like a quite energetic like for the first like 3-4 seconds, but at the later on like last 2 seconds you will see like the movement much more clearer because it's getting much more slower, and then it will become like stuff like that. It's a lot of work. Animations is always a lot of work, and I drank a little bit too much like milk tea at this point. I need to drink some water to water down my blood a little bit. It's too much sugars. I do want to take a little bit of break. I am very tired. Like usually I'm not that tired. Like just today especially tired is because again I drank a very potent coffee yesterday. I didn't manage to get any sleep at all. Do not drink yin yang if your body are not handling the coffee that well. I want to play some games. Maybe we can play some games, a little bit of fun, and then go back to like drawing after like an hour or so. Like, but what games I can play? I have so many games, but so little idea of what to play. Ooh, my back. By the way, if you guys don't know, I have some scoliosis now, so my back is always like really fucking tight too. That's that issues. especially I've been doing lots of like physiotherapy sessions for myself. It kind of like tired out myself even more faster. Who knows? Maybe I can try it out playing Monster Hunters. Play like a few rounds of Monster Hunters. Since like the game has been a lot of like improvement on making things, you know, not as lag as it used to be. Usually when I play alone it's fine, not streaming, just offline play. But the moment when I start, you know, the moment I start to kind of like play this with like on the stream, this thing would just be like super duper laggy. So, yeah. I need to read some workload. Computer will be encountering. Let's remove GA. Reduce the load computer. Oh my, so laggy. Do 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 do. Oh man, they have to do all the re-rendering shit again? Yeah, less thing running in here. Better, I guess. Let's hope. Hey, seems like this thing's working fine. Oops, my control. Hey, this thing looks smooth. Good, good. Da 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 da. Do do do. Do 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 do. It's not well. He moved. Holy, it is so loud. Testing. Oh my gosh. Holy internet. Yeah, so lag. Okay, okay. Oh, something else like this just messed up, I guess. Haha! Restarting? Does it make it work? At least I know one dang thing for sure is that yeah, no one dang thing for sure is like turning off my VTubers. It's much more better. Make things slightly better. I still have to walk back a lot of stuff to just make the game slightly smoother. But the stream for this game is still sort of out of the fucking questions, I feel like. I don't even know how or why. Just bad. Let me go to the arena. See, does it help or not? Yeah, because the gosh dang DLC fucker is like right beside me. Going to arena is the best one because like there's not lots of things there. No, it's still bad. Man, the lagginess is like a little bit too strong for me to play any game. Well, technically I can say like 100% sure like this game is like out of window. I do want to set it up that I can like stream this game, but too bad I can't. Like even I really wanted to, I need to like kind of like remove myself from the equations just to make it work. There is a chance I can make this thing work, but even if I turn off my camera, okay, let's try to turn off my camera. Okay. Turn this thing off. Closed it. Okay. No more camera. Oh. It is slightly smoother, but the capturing is still weird. Like, the game is smooth on my side, but just the capturing is bad. That's weird. So, it does work. Kind of. Let's go in and bully this guy. Hey, gosh dang it. Ah! Stop zapping me! I'm not used to the bad qualities that I'm witnessing. Oh, they removed the bug? Oh, gosh dang. Feel sad. If you don't know, actually, like, I can shoot 3 shots. If I don't aim, they fix that bug. Oh, gosh dang. And don't stand in there. Come on. Come on, I need you to be in some much more flat area, okay? If you refuse to be in a much more flat area, you're just going to be infinitely disappointed. Ouch! Whoa. Where did that come from? I didn't even see it coming from. Ouch. Okay, now you are in a much more... Well, the moment I choose, like, use back my heavy bowgun, like, he immediately go to, like, slanted area again. I feel like he just, like, did it on purpose right now. Boom. Ooh. I dodged it! I managed to dodge that! Ouch! See, this is like weird. Like, you can see like where the ground is like lighting up, so you can like dodge from that ground. I dodged like the lightning ground thingy, but somehow he shot it in a weird ass angle that I get shot in. Woohoo! Again, like you're using, like doing this thing twice in a row. Oh gosh dang it. I know I'm not actually a very good like heavy bowgun player. I just play some heavy bowgun sometimes for some gimmick fun. Again! Sometimes I clearly dodged the thing. I still didn't consider I dodged the thing. Boom! Ah! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Woo! Ouch. Man, I do love this. I do love this. Let's try to get one more hunt in with different weapons. Nah, I guess we should play some other games. This game is not really suitable for me to stream, and because of this stupid things. Ugh. Ooh. Hold on a little bit. My camera's still adjusting and stuff. Yeah, should run one more round on some sort of games. Just have a little bit short break. What sort of games that ready for me to play? I guess we can play a little bit about it. My favorite game. Hold on a little bit. Maybe play something first, and then later on I'll be going back to do the drawing thing. You know. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. There's still so many things I haven't finished yet, but yeah. This game I really loved it. Basically, I'm just like a murderous like psychopath, like going around like smack the shit out of everything I see. Why do I have radiation on me? Wait. Why is my power ran out? I should make more carbon fiber shit, so yeah. See, like the carbon fiber battery is still there. I need to kill more layak. Oh shit. The lightning rod actually can shoot me. Well, good thing I can bandage myself. Yeah, I just learned this recently. I can do this. Just use that thing to help me level up. And I really hate this thing, to be honest. Oh. No wonder there's so many radiations. Gosh dang it. Fuck you. Oh, nope. Still more. people, anyone just like come in and be like, "This is not a drawing stream." Yes, it's not. At the moment. At the moment. Da 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 da. Yep, fresh ham. Oh, all my ham got expired already. Okay. I don't even need it to be fresh. By the way, I heard about this special area that I can go in. Ooh. Yeah, security backpack is here. A hammer. I keep trying to think about like... Holy shit, it's a layak. Layak, layak. Where are you, layak, layak? Where are you, layak? Layak? I was going to say fuck you. Ooh, fuck you. Ooh, fuck you. Ooh. Ooh. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Yeah, if you guys don't have any like DLC, I need to pause the game a little bit, have some tummy ache. Be back soon. Alright, I'm back. Not really sure like what I missed. Oh, nothing missed. Man, like doing streamings while doing this is like completely difficult thing to do. Let me try to like figure out a way to like fix some stuff. All right. Yes, configure you. I don't need that many dot. Alright. This is like the lowest quality I can give them. No virtual webcam. Don't really need those things since I'm using Sprout. And yeah, I don't need that. Recording, I don't need those things too. Is it? Alright. How about I use this instead? Should use less of a tracking to make it work. All right. Unless even this one is like eats up like a lot of like processing power, then I would really have no idea how to like do this. Whee! Whee! Yeah, I really love this like anti-gravity boots. It's just fun to have. Only one honey? Ow. That's bullshit. Oh yeah, the new version of the Mozentang. I can give this thing an upgrade. Oh, I need a lot of carbon plating and on a key. How much carbon plating I have? Okay, mate. I think I have a lot of carbon, but not carbon plating. Yeah, just use up all of them. I don't really have any other use for this particular part of the things anyway, so... Do 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 do. Since I need ornate key, so
I'm tired.
I should go to like the you know, some of the area that I can go for. And beat the crap out of them. Oh, you scammed. You scammed the crap out of me. There will be one day I actually get bit by him and then I don't know who the fuck bit me. It will happen one day. Sooner or later. Not now, but sooner or later. Soon. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Oops. Actually, I hate the fucking line that kind of like there. I really hope they kind of like let me able to like. Yeah, it's not going to be there. Yeah, I can shoot way more accurately than like. Without seeing the gosh dang fucking thing. Is there a way to like turn that like trajectory thingy off? Yeah, the projector predictor thing is like throwing my aim off way more than you think. The Quail family. Appreciate this. Raw potato. Pesteto. Can't pass to leave you alone for a while. Increase the jump for quite a while. Nice. Carbuncle pizza. Oh, that carbuncle got despawned. Yeah. Oh. Oh shit, this is like the rarest thing in the world, I guess.
How long do I need to finish cooking this?
Yeah, once this thing is finished cooking, I'll be like going back to drawing. Do I need to make another like ANW? NL? Can I? Oh, I'm gonna try it. Oh, I'm good. Yeah, I said like the item can respawn shit, so like it's slightly easier for me since I'm playing apocalyptic difficulty. So I do want to have some things that kind of like make it like easier for me. Oh, doop. Yeah, well cooked. Well cooked well cooked stuff to roasted pickery. Nice. Yeah, most of the automated stuff is not working. I am going to send all this thing to here, and yeah, I'm just going to play this thing a little bit to test out like gaming stream. Fine or not? Answer is not that much, to be honest. Not that much. I might have to play in a way that I just like don't have my like face there. Who knows? Like run the least stuff that kind of like being like very like, invasive, I guess. I have to figure out a way to do this. See, like the moment I turn off the games, that everything is so smooth now. Kinda hate it though. I kinda really hate it. That works that well. Ba 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 Wow. 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 Ah. Ah. Every day doing some different routine. Some different routine that I am doing. Ooh, 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 ooh. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 dum dum da 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 da. Da 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 da.
focus of this video. So for the sake of saving your guys' time, I am attaching down below a June the King video, as well as a Turkey Tom video that go over and do a much more in-depth analysis of all of that intro stuff as well. I will additionally include a playlist down below that is all of my previous videos about pirate software. Now to go over a year back now, the start of 2025, we have the OnlyFans WoW incident. The nexus for the soon-to-be downfall of pirate software. What did you expect me to do? I was out of mana. Now I'm going to show the main clips, sometimes clips from my videos covering this, but TLDR, Pirate Software is a part of the OnlyFans Guild, a content creation group that was playing World of Warcraft hardcore. You have to spend hundreds of hours grinding up a character, and if it dies, you gotta restart and do it again. And that was kind of the whole thing, and Pirate Software, along with some other people, kind of shit the bed during a very intense moment. Some people lost their characters. This is where the roaching allegations started up.
Just kill the mastiffs.
Innovate.
Innovate the healer.
Nova, bro,
Kill the
come on.
mastiffs. The mastiffs can be ice novas.
Now we're gonna wait.
Nisara?
No.
Okay. He has mana, so I don't know.
Evocation's on cooldown, man.
You have okay. Evocation is on cooldown, sure.
I can
But you
talk
have
like
mana
how
gem and
much
you have
mana
ropes.
is
Moment of
Ice
peace as well.
Nova. There's no miss that much mana.
You have a boss in you. You called run.
Getting
I
slowed.
This is not the time to be argumentative.
Didn't
ran.
even look
As much
back.
as you're angry right now, of course I ran.
I'm not
you
angry at all. I'm
You
not angry at
overpulled
all.
2 packs. You overpulled 2 packs and a boss. I had 1,400 mana left. I had to spend all of that mana to try and put it on Blizzard to save you guys in the first place, and nothing left.
Not
you
really.
weren't paying attention to party resources. You overpulled, and you weren't paying attention to where the boss was. That's not on me.
Ooh.
I saw about
just take some blame, God damn it. Just a bit.
I don't know if we could
It's
like
okay.
move back. Yeah,
Not
yeah.
on
But I
me.
mean,
Like you're not even like in danger.
Oh,
You
I'm
can at
100%
least
in
try
danger.
a Frost Nova. Like,
100%.
No, you're not.
No, 100% in danger.
No,
When
he's
your
not.
shot color says run, it's time to run, you run. That is how that works.
No, it's not.
Roll
You
a
were the
mage and do
first
it.
person that ran away and didn't even look back. Literally.
This
You-
is the
you didn't even
second
say
time.
anything.
This
You
is
could
the
have at
second.
least said like the boss.
You just
were
gonna
there.
talk
Just
over me?
yapping
Is that
about
what we're
useless
doing now?
stuff.
You done giving your point? You good?
Yes. I'm
Okay, cool. You go roll a mage then. See you around. Chief.
Did you leave the call?
Now this was, I think, for a lot of people, the first time that the curtain was kind of pulled back a bit, and a bit of who Pirate actually is was shown to the public. The theme throughout all of the drama that we are going over the course of this entire video is going to be summed up to this singular point. Pirate Software cannot actually admit when he's wrong. To take that a step further, in my observations, I don't think Pirate Software is ever truly believing in a situation like this, as black and white as it is to us that he made mistakes. I genuinely believe that he is incapable of recognizing that he's actually wrong in these situations. As to why that's the case, I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. But the alternative is that he's being very particular and malicious about these deceptions. And for me personally, based off of what we've seen, I just find it a lot harder to believe that he's actually being very careful and malicious about being so wrong so often. But to go back to what we just saw, obviously, there
He's
were
just an
other ways
idiot.
that he could have played. This was widely accepted, even from Soda Poppin', who's one of the leaders of the guild. It also showed, which I would say is not as a big of a deal, but based
There are people that love faces, you know? It's like, I say again, I am quite mirroring with like Pirate Software's like in kind of personality. This is why I'm really afraid that one day I'm going to turn to become like him. And I'm not even kidding about it. It's really similar. Okay? And back in the days, people would just say, like, hey, it's you, but famous. But now he's a famous in that sense. But still, again, this is a really like complex stories. But yeah, you can, I can relate to him so much on how him being an asshole, so much of an asshole. You know, like that. There's a lot of moment that you kind of like, you feel like the environment is pressuring you, and feel like everything's like ringing. You can't hear any other reasoning, and then you just like lash out. And technically, just him on the daily basis. That your brain just shut down and go on full defensive mode. Some people does that like a little bit, you know, like a few times in their life. Some people are constantly doing that. Pirate Software is one of them, and I myself is one of them too. This is why I'm so argumentative, like on lots of stuff.
On the clips and how he reacted to these situations, he wasn't interested in expressing any understanding of the other people's positions. He was there and speaking for the sole purpose of defending himself and explaining to everybody how they were wrong and how he was fundamentally and objectively correct in everything that he did. Now, additionally, around the same time, he had also done something similar in Ashes of Creation, another pretty large at the time MMO that hadn't been closed down yet. Now, this hadn't gained a lot of traction at the time, but later down the road, the story would end up building up some more during the Stop Killing Games drama. TLDR, he blamed someone from his guild for pulling an ocular, a beast that ended up wiping a good chunk of their guild during this fight, and it ended up being the case that he pulled the ocular. And it's at that point that we find out from Pirate that that wasn't the incorrect move, pulling the ocular. It was actually, in fact, his team's fault no matter what.
God damn it, guys.
No, who pulled the ocular?
So one of you pulled the ocular. The lightning ball pulled. I cast lightning ball before that Oculus appeared, and half the raid was in the back because they pulled the wrong pack. I'm not at fault there. I'm correct there for doing that. 100%.
Again, this is just kind of corroborating the point that he just seems very ego-driven. He cannot be wrong. He immediately finds a different reason to blame anybody other than himself, who was the person that pulled the ocular. But we'll find more of that as we continue on. Following up after this incident, we had an individual here that ended up creating a game. And this game had come from private parts you can find on YouTube here. TLDR, he made this post on Livestream Fail. He put Pirate Software drama in his indie game, kind of did a shameless self-promote, and it included a snippet of what seems to be a roach wearing a mage outfit that was using Pirate Software's actual voice clips from his streams, and they seem to be a part of the game. Pirate Software sees that his likeness was used in this game, that being his actual voice, and he issues a DMCA strike against Private Parts.
There was a dude earlier today that went onto Reddit and said that he was using my voice in a video game, showed a bunch of videos of it, and then put that game up on Steam. A lot of people in the thread told him not to do that, that would end up being a legal problem for him. He did it anyway. So I filed a DMCA claim, and he has now filed a counterclaim against me. We're going to take you to court. You're going to lose. You cannot use somebody's likeness or voice in any way inside of your games without their permission. It's a really stupid thing to do. Incredibly so. So I'm going to send this over to Kronos now, because he is a lawyer in copyright law. That is his job. Welcome to the Finding Out timeline, bud.
Now, a big issue with this DMCA is that it was unlawful. The reason for that is because the build of the game that included Pirate Software using his voice that was shown in that Livestream Fails post was never an actual public build for the game. It was never published on Steam at that point. It was just a developer build. Now, don't get me wrong, it was advertised in a way that you would not know that. And I think for the common man, that is something that is like understandable. Okay, you know, you were baited into believing that it was publicly used. But unfortunately for Pirate, especially when he's making accusations of taking somebody to court, more than just the confidence in his voice, you need to make sure that you're actually DMCAing something that you can DMCA. It did not exist on Steam, therefore he could not do it. And they ended up, of course, walking that DMCA back. However, Pirate Software ended up going onto Twitter and saying the DMCA was absolutely not unlawful. We filed a DMCA in response to the developer claiming that he put my voice in his video game, etc. Now, he did get corrected in the comments by Frost here. Shout out to them going over that, but I had taken it one step further, and I interviewed the lawyer that was prepped to defend Private Parts in this potential false DMCA lawsuit. This was back from when I was Bald Theo, but here is an entire segment dedicated to why his DMCA was false. We go through and walk through the entire thing with his lawyer. Again, will be in the playlist that I create for this video. Now, even leading up to this point, I think a lot of people were still being a bit charitable. I mean, Pirate's metrics didn't really take a nosedive. He was still gaining traction, just albeit slower than his previous growth. In this false DMCA drama, we saw that he was very confidently wrong. And again, this is something that people were going to start seeing more and more as the Stop Killing Games drama built up. He appears incredibly cocky, additionally very condescending to the people around him that he deems, you know, haters, people out to get him, people he dislikes. And when you act so confidently and you behave in this type of way, if you end up being wrong, it looks that much worse. Now, additionally, around this time, I had also dropped the titular Pirate Software is being being a furry. In this video, I went over some of the previous stuff that had happened in Second Life, where it was also kind of discovered, or I guess I should say brought to the forefront, that Pirate Software previously was a furry, and he would go under the pseudonym Maldavius Figtree. And tied to that pseudonym Maldavius, we saw a history of him showing up in communities like EVE Online or Second Life, getting involved in some big drama and then disappearing from that community and starting up somewhere else. I'll talk more about that later, but the main part of this video was showcasing that it appeared that Pirate had been cheating his way through puzzle games. Pirate Software, someone who I would say has built up a brand and IP that he's a very intelligent dude, is a hacker, goes to these hacking conventions.
Thank God I never tell anyone I'm intelligent. This is always telling people I'm dumb.
And solving puzzles. For him to what seems to be very blatantly checking his phone or disappearing and then suddenly solving a puzzle when he was claiming that he wasn't, using any
You know what?
outside
That's a
resources.
stupid
Well, it
shit in
looks
the world.
really
Like,
fucking bad.
if you want to cheat, like, don't get caught so blatantly.
Can't figure out what to do here. You basically have
Like-
to use your camera in the game, and he's going to.
At this point, it's fine to cheat.
Image of a quantum.
Like, here's the thing. If you're really having a bad times on the game, it's fine to cheat. But don't try to be, like, the most smartest gamer in the world. Just fucking admit it.
Object. Image of a quantum object.
Honesty in streaming is the best thing in the world.
We don't even have an image, though.
If you're dumb, just tell people you're
Oh,
dumb.
by the way, I am not reading most of chat, and I cannot hear TTS today. So if you're trying to talk to me using TTS, it will not work. Preserving the image of a quantum object. Preserving a quantum object in the image of a quantum object. I'm going back there. I'm going back there. I want to solve that. There's nothing in the room that looks like the object. Unless we make one. Wait.
Now, he appeared to be exhibiting the same type of looking down at his phone and checking stuff in Animal Well, this one, as well as I believe a third game. People who have gone through and fully puzzle solved those games have gone over and fully analyzed those. I believe I leave links in those in my video. But again, this is just kind of adding on to, okay, the way Pirate has portrayed himself over the course of his career so far on YouTube now had holes getting poked into it. There were things that weren't quite adding up. Now, in the timeline that I have shown you guys so far, I've missed a key plot point. Back on April 2nd of 2024, even a year before this, Accursed Farms put out the beginning of the Stop Killing Games initiative, the largest campaign ever to stop publishers destroying games. In it, he explains the issue that games are just allowed to essentially be killed off and there's no ramifications for this, and that's bad. With this video, Pirate Software had actually responded to it with two full videos that he had made himself. Stop Killing Games and Stop Killing Games 2. Again, there are other videos that have dissected why he was incorrect in some of his criticisms against the Stop Killing Games initiative, but TLDR, he claimed that the Stop Killing Games initiative's goals were far too vague, and when it comes to, politics and wanting to see actual policy change, they need to be very specific. Additionally, based on what he saw in the Stop Killing Games initiative, what they wanted, he was under the belief that it would kill live service games as a whole. Additionally, he would say stuff like, well, MMOs are meant to be played massively multiplayer, so if you just make extra servers for them, at end of life, like, you're not playing the game how it's intended to be played. As if that was worse than, just having the game outright taken away from the people purchasing it.
But I would argue that this isn't actually preserving these games. Social games, such as, let's say, Apex Legends, require a number of players to be in the match at the same time so that you can have an experience that is only able to be obtained through lots of players interacting, right? There's only 5 people online. Why would I play that? So why would you want to preserve a game in that state? That doesn't make any sense to me. You want to take down these live service games, put them up on a private server, and then play it with a couple of people. You're not bringing it back at its height. You're not taking a snapshot of what the game actually is. You're making it limp on in a way that doesn't make any sense.
It's interesting seeing these things in hindsight because it's so damn clear at this point. And a lot of people, don't get me wrong, these videos were met with quite a bit of negativity, not to the extreme that they are looked at now. But even seeing these back then, a lot of people were being very charitable. But like in the example that was just shown, it's a very subjective way to to explain away why people shouldn't be allowed to have private servers of like MMOs, for example. Just because Pirate Software believes that the main experience that you'll never be able to kind of like truly preserve has been taken away doesn't mean that that is the case for anybody else playing the game. It also, and again, this is kind of a motif of this SKG part, culminates in a fundamental misunderstanding of what the Stop Killing Games initiative aims to achieve, which is fundamentally, if you purchase a game, if you purchase a good, you should have the ability to own it. And the fact that these companies are allowed to remove this commodity and suddenly it doesn't exist anymore even after you purchased it, that's yucky. With the fast approaching deadline for this Stop Killing Games initiative getting signatures for the EU, that being July 31st, Ross felt the need to come out and clear the air. And he did something that he really didn't want to do. He addressed Pirate Software. And this was an explosive response, to say the least.
Our biggest critic by far is YouTuber and streamer Pirate Software, who goes by Thor. If your only exposure to Stop Killing Games has been this video, then you've been misinformed. This video is by someone who does not understand the campaign, has been trying to stop it, and has been making up what it is about. I am not saying that lightly. I will prove it in a minute.
Basically, we don't want single-player games
No.
to have DRM that the developers can turn off and thus render the single-player games inactive anymore. This is what they want to change. They need to be specific that they're talking about single-player games that do not need a server to support them.
No.
And as much as they want it to be about specifically games where it is a single-player game that has always online functionality, it would impact every live service game that exists, instead of just targeting single-player, always online games.
No, that's not what it is. Stop Killing Games includes single-player games, but nothing about it is specific to them. He completely made that up, and I have no idea where he got that impression.
Transitioning an entire multiplayer server-side game into a single-player video game. Imagine the day that World of Warcraft shuts down, and suddenly you have to make it a single-player game for every individual that ever bought the game. That's what they're asking for.
No.
If you try to tell me that every studio needs to run their live service game indefinitely or not want to run one at all, then no one's going to run them.
Oh no! He wheeled out that line about publishers having to support the game forever. He was literally watching the video earlier where it says it won't do that in big letters.
Now, I showed you a couple of clips there, but this is a 50-minute video, and that portion responding to Pirate Software and stuff took up 30 minutes of it. I felt I should also show that not only did he do this, but Ross also made attempts to communicate with Pirate Software, and so we got a few interesting clips out of that, where number one, he showed how Pirate was talking about Ross on his streams, and then how Pirate reacted to seeing a comment written by Ross.
So this was my first encounter of him.
Oh shit, now this is actually really dumb. It's used car salesman garbage. This is shit. Not only do I not want to back this, I'm going to actively tell people not to. That is awful. That is a horrible goddamn direction. Eat my entire ass. The level of stupid that I just had to receive was like sitting on Twitter for 12 hours. All of this can eat shit then. I dropped the mask entirely. I have no qualms about that. They can eat my entire ass. The whole thing.
I cut out half of the clips he included in that segment, by the way. I just included the famous ones, you know, eat my entire ass, I dropped the mask entirely. Here we also get to see how he responds to Ross leaving a comment under one of his videos.
It's clear that you hate the initiative, and I doubt I would change that. That is correct. I would encourage you to at least hate it for what it accurately is. I do.
He says that so confidently. Oh yeah, you knocked it out of the park. You understood everything.
In other words, the customer is told explicitly that their access ends at the time of payment. Most live service games do not do this, which could run afoul of EU law. Most is patently incorrect.
Patently incorrect? Okay, for those who don't know much about live service games, that's like saying the Earth isn't round. He says verifiably false things so confidently. If his viewers don't know any better, how can I blame anyone for believing what he says about the initiative when he talks like that? And he does not wish to discuss this with me or anyone else in the initiative.
Would you consider reaching out and talking to Ross about it? No. And the reason why is because I found his entire statement over over the YouTube, incredibly disingenuous.
Now, I had kind of known firsthand that Pirate Software was very much not interested in having a conversation with Ross because I messaged Pirate directly and he wrote back to me. Unfortunately, as I'm assuming he has deleted our DMs, I don't have access to them anymore, but thankfully, for the most part, I have them saved through these videos. Here's that first part just to show you guys that I was, messaging him directly, and this is way back in June, 2 days after Ross's video had come out, and I was very straight up about everything going on. My name is Connor Quinty on YouTube, got 46K subs, talk about content creator drama. I've spoken negatively about you in some of those past videos, and I tell him that I'm researching the video and was like, hey, I think that there's, sides to both of your points, Ross and you. At this point, I hadn't fully watched Ross's video, so I did think that he had a bit more weight to some of the points Pirate himself had made. Just clarifying, because I wasn't being disingenuous there. And I say down there, I genuinely think that a discussion between you two would be incredibly useful for both sides. I think you have some legitimate criticisms, etc., and go through that. I even say, hey, I know that in the past you said you won't speak to Ross, so I understand this is pretty much a shot in the dark, but I truly think it's a win-win. And I also suggest, because I want skin in the game as well, that I was going to moderate that discussion. He just gives me the default, this is what I posted on Twitter, this is my response. He also says, it seems like most of your content is react/hate chasing. I then double down myself and say, hey, if it's an issue that you aren't cool with me moderating it, I'll keep out of it. Over everything, I think that conversation would do a great deal in reducing how polarized people have become on this, and I know that's antithetical to my channel, but that was my goal starting out. I did my best for what it was worth to me, and I'd also reached out to Ross. He was very much down for the conversation, but he expressed to me that he doubted very highly that it was going to be possible to get Pirate on board with having that conversation. Now, to kind of tie it back into looking at this retrospectively, I genuinely believe that Pirate genuinely believes that Ross is somehow a disingenuous person. I think that he looks at Ross as a complete moron, which was, very apparent based on how he was talking about Ross. It became very apparent that he believed he was much smarter on the subject matter than Ross was, even though he was completely misrepresenting and misunderstanding the whole point of Stop Killing Games. But even with this belief that I have, I'm still a bit dumbfounded as to why he never wanted to have that follow-up conversation. Even just from a content perspective, that seems like a great idea to dunk on this idiot who's trying to lead the charge for a good reason, but is misguided. And so maybe, on that front, I'm wrong about my assertion that maybe to some degree he is self-aware enough to know that sometimes he's been incorrect, but instead of actually admitting to that, his ego is too inflated at this point to correct path, and he would just rather deny and stay frosty. Now, additionally, in his response, he had sent me this post that he had made on Twitter, and I'm just going to read the little recap here. My main issue with this initiative is that it is broad in its approach to change the industry in the exact language of the initiative, not the fact requests that all games stay in a functional, playable state. It says this is not feasible for all games at a technical level and could potentially restrict developers from making online games like MMOs, MOBAs, and user-generated content games in the future. Effectively, this has the potential to restrict future developers from making kick-ass experiences because it locks a weight on their designs. He says a lot more stuff. He ends up making a response where he said, just talk to Charlie and Josh Drive Hayes for a bit in DMs. He apologizes for being a dick to Ross, which is a dub, showcasing he can also selectively apologize. And he also talks about here, on the developer side, I've been in a constant battle with people online for nearly a decade trying to inform them how difficult it is to make and release video games. The idea that any of these technical hurdles are easy to overcome and would be simple to implement is the exact kind of thing I've been fighting. Well, down below that, he was responded to by a game developer named Jack Vania. I can't show you his replies to it, but he was effectively saying, hey, you're wrong about this. There are easy ways to implement these things, and the systems that we have in place right now just aren't ready to facilitate them, and they need to be changed. He deleted his Twitter account, and the surviving thing that I have here is roughly an hour-long interview with him where he goes in detail, point after point, with Stop Killing Games. And the focus of this wasn't to dunk on Pirate Software, but I had seen his messages, and he replied in one of my videos, and so I asked him to come on to kind of explain Stop Killing Games and how what they were asking for was incredibly feasible. I'm just going to include a small clip of my favorite thing that he had to say during this to kind of explain the situation we were in with SKG and how to move forward.
I'm assuming Pirate is looking at this from a perspective of this is going to be impossible to do today with how we do things today, because he lacks the forward thinking to be like, okay, so we just need to change the way we do things going forward, which is the correct approach. Complexity isn't an engineering problem. Complexity is a brain compute problem. Slow down, space things out, and plan ahead. That is where the major pain points lie in development.
That was genuinely probably one of my favorite parts of covering any of the Pirate Software stuff, is getting the opportunity to interview people like Jack Vania and get their side, their perspective on things. Getting to sit down with an actual game dev and walk through the SKG initiative point by point was very interesting for me, because you get to learn about it and understand in a way, you know, arguing for its feasibility, how these things can be done, and hearing how he describes it and how he thinks it's very possible in contrast to how Pirate Software explained it, I thought was just very useful for the general public that was interested in the Stop Killing Games initiative, interested in any of the drama going on and what they had learned from it. Now, two main things here. Number one, he mentions just talk to Charlie, that being Moist Critical Charlie. He had spoken to him in DMs, as well as Josh Strive Hayes, but we're focusing on this. He irritated Moist Critical so badly that he ended up making a video about it. Not only that, he brought Pirate Software out of drama coverage retirement because of how annoyed he got.
I'm sure many of you have noticed over the last 10 or 11 months, internet drama hasn't been a huge focal point of the channel because I haven't seen a whole bunch of it. I haven't kept up with the vast majority of it. That being said, there is something that has unfolded here that's like the John Wick killing the dog moment that's bringing me back, just very temporarily. And it's Pirate Software. Yesterday I talked about Stop Killing Games. And there's no way to talk about Stop Killing Games without also mentioning Pirate Software because of the profound effect he has had on that initiative in its demise. His ego is so out of control, I feel like he's only a week or two away from exclusively referring to himself in third person. He just continues to double down, even proudly stating he is doubling down. Wow, how incredibly noble, doubling down on things you are provably, blatantly wrong about. It prompted me to reach out directly to him, to talk to him, to see, like, why isn't he acknowledging that? Is there a reason? Like, what is going on there? So I did. He made it very clear he was not very happy with my coverage of Stop Killing Games, which is fine. I think that's totally fine. I'm not going to leak DMs or really go in depth on our private conversation, but the point of me reaching out to him was to talk about his refusal to acknowledge that he did, maybe unintentionally, misrepresent Stop Killing Games, and it led to a just shy of 2 hours, like, circular argument that ultimately got us nowhere.
Now, obviously, there's like a hoo-hoo-ha-ha, like you brought Moist Critical out of, you know, quote-unquote drama retirement for him because he was so annoyed at your conversations and your response. But the bigger reason that I want to show that is, like, Moist Critical is looked at as someone who's like a fence-sitter, which I don't even really think is a negative thing. But, like, you got someone who is very generally, like, in the face of, if there's multiple points, even if one side is a little bit weaker than the other, he's not really going to be taking a dramatic side. To have someone like this who's stepped away from drama recognize how clearly wrong you are, and your complete refusal to admit that you're wrong, or even the bare minimum of just admitting that you misunderstood or just like got it wrong, is insane. And I think that this is why this whole Pirate Software controversy blew up to the degree that it did. In my tenure of drama coverage, you know, doing this for a job, I had yet to see someone who was as well liked as Pirate Software, as big as Pirate Software, respond to a situation where they're wrong with this much ego that they respond in the way that they are. Like, just completely denying the reality of the situation that is so clear to everybody watching. And if Moist Critical is huffing and puffing about how clearly wrong you are, we are so far past it being like a nuanced misunderstanding, if that makes sense. Now, for me, these two Twitter posts and Moist Critical making that second follow-up video, this was the start of what is now going to be a death spiral for the next month and a half. I call it a death spiral because truly, at any point during the next month and a half, if Pirate Software just shut the fuck up, admitted that he was wrong in some facet, or just truly went radio silent, or just completely ignored the drama that was going on,
Well, he
I
did.
would not have
Too late.
the channel that I do today. I also don't think his fall from grace would have been nearly as large. But you are now going to see that time and time again, Pirate attempts to engage with the controversy, attempts to show that he is correct when he isn't, and in doing so creates the easiest videos that I have ever made in my entire life. Pirate Software would make a verifiably false statement or an incredibly misleading one. The proof that he's being deceitful or something would usually show up in a reply to his tweets, or it just wouldn't take a lot of digging, and a new video would come out to talk about that, in which case, for some reason, Pirate would respond to it. To give Pirate some credit, I think it's important mentioning it here, as well as I did mention mentioned this in the most recent video covering him. Pirate Software had said that he had been swatted twice at the beginning of July. I covered this and some other information in this video here. Pirate Software just got swatted, and this was one of my most negatively received videos, and it had to do with the swatting bit.
The most interesting thing that came out of it is so many different developers actually reached out and were pissed off at me for leaving Off-Brand, because they're like, the trolls win and now they know that they can like cyberbully people into losing their jobs and shit. And I was like, they already could do that. Like that's how they tried to kill me on Tuesday. So yeah. I mean, like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I know you have like this big grandstanding narrative that you have to fit to, and oh shit, now they know that they have blood in the water. They swatted me on Tuesday. I don't give a shit what you think. I'm out, dude. Enjoy your initiative. Have fun. In the middle of the stream, about 9 a.m., I got a bunch of phone calls to my phone. They left a bunch of voicemails of shit saying, your time has come, in like a giant screeching voice, and then we got swatted. But at the same time, it's like, I don't give a fuck about your initiative because your people are unhinged. And I realize that's not everybody that's part of that, but I don't give a shit, dude. Like, I'm out.
Now, the main issues that people had with this were, number one, was Pirate Software being truthful, or was he just kind of, drama farming? He was empathy farming. He already had a track record of being deceitful, lying, or just being straight up incorrect about stuff. And so that kind of ended up warping into also this idea that the swatting didn't actually involve people showing up, the SWAT team showing up with guns drawn at his home, and that this was just a phone call that was sent in where, he's talked about before, I've spoken with my local police department. They just give me a phone call when stuff like this happens. To a lot of people, they perceived him describing this as like they were trying to kill me by swatting me, as him kind of, blowing it out of proportion that, it just ended up being a phone call. For the first point, did it happen? Yes, it did. One of the people that was following the drama at the time that I am aware of ended up putting out a Freedom of Information Act request, a FOIA request, to the local police department where Pirate Software resides, and they received back the call logs from what he is talking about. The swatting absolutely happened. Obviously, I'm not going to release this information, so, take my word for it, I guess, but I'm not leaking that information. But on top of that, when we come down to what swatting is, regardless of the SWAT team showing up, if you make a call to a police force and say that this person is such a big deal, is such a high threat, that they respond with sending a SWAT team, or that's your goal, you are trying to get that person killed. Regardless of them showing up to his home or not, Pirate Software is 1,000,000,000% correct on that. That is what is happening. You can send pizzas to someone's home. You can, prank in other ways that are not going to threaten their life. But as soon as you are trying to get people who are holding guns with the express intent to neutralize a threat that they are being told is in this home and is highly dangerous, you are trying to get that person killed. Out of any flack that he had received for his actions in regard to everything that was going on, this to me was the least warranted. However, the fact that he assumed that the people that had done this to him were part of the Stop Killing Games initiative, and then said, I'm not going to touch it anymore if you guys are trying to threaten my life, that was a bit of, making an assumption that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. He's insinuating here that the people that have threatened his life are somehow doing it in the name of the Stop Killing Games initiative. That for me was the most contentious issue with how he responded to this. But you might have also heard in the clip I just showed that he talked about leaving off-brand games. Now, additionally, in this video, I covered that once again, Pirate Software was lying, and this time it looked like he wasn't trying to lie with intention to deceive. He was lying because he just didn't know, I guess, or he didn't check. He got into an argument on Twitter with Ross, Accursed Farms here, saying, hey, you deleted VODs of you talking about this stuff previously. And he's like, they auto-delete after 60 days. Any stream going over 12 hours of runtime on YouTube is auto-cut off. He literally made fun of Ross for not knowing how VODs work. But then he got caught on stream. This is literally replying to their little message chain there of him literally admitting to the fact that he had deleted the VODs. And I went ahead and found the actual VOD on his channel just to show you guys, this is directly from it. Here at about 3:37:32, this is him openly admitting to deleting those VODs.
On top of it, I went through the Reddit for their initiative for that, and there were a number of posts in there that were people saying we should keep baiting him and attacking him, because if we do that, he'll keep talking about it, and then more people will sign the initiative. They were planning that shit. And those threads are still there. They're still up. People are still talking about that shit on there. So instead of that, I just deleted all the VODs where we were talking about it. I kept my videos up and I walked away.
Now, I explained this too in my response in that video, but again, this is kind of a motif of the greater arcing controversy. The issue wasn't necessarily that Pirate deleted these VODs. He said people were trying to rage bait him or whatever excuse that he had given for it. By all means, that's okay. The issue is this man was fundamentally incorrect in a way that, you know, he could have prevented it by just saying, you know, I'm not sure, maybe I did delete them, people have been brigading or anything like that. But instead, he treats Ross like a moron, is like, I can't believe this guy doesn't know how VODs work, and he was still fucking wrong. He never follows up on this, by the way. Like, the ego to treat someone like this and still be incorrect about it is insane. And he just can't stop himself from doing it. You might have heard at the beginning of that first clip I showed you of him talking about being swatted that he was talking about that he left off-brand games. I'm kind of covering this out of order, but this was the video I'd put out before it. Pirate Software quit and lied about it, and he puts out this tweet here. I'm no longer working at off-brand games. Like I said, he was working as a part of it, and this is an offshoot of off-brand from Ludwig. People were attacking all of the games we were publishing and trying to mass review bomb them. You can dislike the things I say, but this kind of behavior is unhinged. Well, shout out to this individual here, Mischief. I ended up going into Steam reviews and checking myself as well, which shows up a little bit later in the video. And he goes through all of the off-brand games, you know, content that they had put out, the different games they had. And you can see that there is no massive review bomb. Matter of fact, there's a lot of positive ones as of recent for Rivals of Either. There's another game, which was just a demo that still had literally 0 negative reviews. A different one here, Aethermancer demo. You can see that there are these bars over here. That is a single negative review, each of these, and there's 2 more behind the second Quintio here. As a matter of fact, the only game that was getting review bombed was Pirate Software's own game Heartbound, and there was actual reasons for it. The game is still to this day unfinished, and there were a lot of issues that people had with it way earlier on. People do seem to have legitimate gripes with Heartbound though, which we will get into as we continue. Again, this dude is saying that he left off-brand games because people were attacking them because of him. They were mass review bombing the games. I don't even know where he came up with this. I don't even know if he somehow meant that, you know, like he had also mentioned that they were getting attacked on Discord, Twitter, Reddit, these other things. Maybe that's what he meant by mass review bomb, these other places, but we all understand the connotation of a review bomb. It's usually in a place that you can view it. He knows what a mass review bomb is. He was bringing up the fact that Helldivers 2 was getting massive review bombs in regard to the PSN shit that was going on. It is again just like crazy to everybody to make a lie that is so very clearly untrue and more importantly, so easily provably false. All you had to do was check stream charts. Someone was bound to do it. I ended up doing it, and you could just see the proof. And on top of that, if there were more negative reviews, if they're disingenuous, you can get them removed if they're not talking about the game. So even if there is a negligible impact of this review bomb if they can't directly tie it to the actual game itself. Bringing up Helldivers, and this kind of goes into Pirate again contradicting himself. If you are a part of a studio, yes, you absolutely represent the games that come out of it. Being a part of a game studio, and he had a very adverse opinion to stop killing games, maybe people wouldn't want to support a game studio that has one of their, you know, higher ups being someone that is so against stop killing games. Maybe that's a justifiable reason for people to not want to support that company while you're there. I've sunk a little too much time into this. We'll continue on. I apologize. I am truly, this is not bullshit. This is by far the most entertaining drama, most interesting drama that I ever covered. And so sometimes I can't stop myself from going into all the little details, so apologies. Now we're about to jump into the Heartbound information, and there is a lot. That's probably the second really big aspect of this whole drama. The only noteworthy things I think that we've kind of missed out on, or that I'm just not going to, you know, take and fully cover, are this graph that he was toting around showing, you know, like I had no negative impact on stop killing games. Second is him dropping his banger line, I hope you get everything you asked for, but nothing that you want.
I hope that your initiative gets everything you asked for, but nothing you wanted.
And thirdly, he compared this situation to Coney 2012. I have a video going over this, but it's more like educating as to what Coney 2012 is and how the comparison is insane and maybe like his idea of what he was trying to go for. But now we move on to the second main chapter of this drama, Heartbound. I want to start this chapter off by giving a big shout out to someone who kind of made a lot of this possible with their coverage, and they kind of blew up after all this. That being Slop Media Network. They put out some absolutely banger videos. Developer examines Pirate Software, part 2 DRM analysis code. He goes over the code, and then what we're going to be talking about here, Job History and Development Hell of Heartbound. Those two videos were, in my opinion, some of the best content that had come out during this drama. Now, one part of that video was focusing on his job history, and it seems to be evident that Pirate Software was padding his stats, so to speak, which I don't think is necessarily out of the realm of, realistic. I think most people are going to word how they've worked in different jobs across, different businesses in the way that's going to sound the best for, prospective people that are looking to hire somebody. But the far more interesting section to me, and I think a lot of people, was his coverage of the development hell that was Heartbound, where Pirate lied seemingly multiple times about the development process. He clearly, for example, just straight up lied about having COVID.
On October 2019, Jason tweeted that roughly 86% of Chapter 3 has now been completed. Then 2 years later, Jason tweets that Chapter 3 is now 92% done. So over 2 years, he made 8% progress on one chapter. 20 years of game dev industry experience, people. Let's rewind and go back to 2020 and see the Twitch statistics and see what was happening. Okay, the start of 2020 up till March seems like a normal stream schedule. Seems like he caught a cold on March 10th. Then after 9 days, he goes to urgent care and is diagnosed with pneumonia and gets a COVID test. Then we move to March 21st and COVID test results come back and it's negative. No COVID, just pneumonia. Wait, never mind. March 24th, Jason goes back to urgent care. Pneumonia was incorrectly diagnosed and he actually has severe bronchitis. All right, March 30th, he's still sick, but once again confirms negative for COVID. This is really important. Then we hit February 2021, and then he tweets out he has had COVID for 9 months since the start of February of 2020. Wait, what? Jason was only sick in March according to his own tweets at that time period. And there's work from February from earlier. And there's proof he worked during April, May, June, July, and August at the very least, judging by his Twitch stats and his Steam announcements and patches for the game. Where he lost 9 months of time and had to stop development based on his tweets, I have no idea. I mean, it's not like he's going to change his story after this, right? Oh wait, there's this old tweet from November 2020 where Jason says he was recovering for nearly 8 months and couldn't daily stream or work. Let's look at the Twitch stats graph again and his tweets. He couldn't work during this period, but everything he posts during this time says he was working on Heartbound, and his Twitch stats confirm it. So on June 2023, he catches COVID again. Okay, that seems to match up with his Twitch stats graph. Here there's a clear week gone. Let's see what Jason says in July.
That was a hell of a thing. That's the second time I've gotten COVID. The first time took 9 months to recover. This one took probably about, I think it was in total about 20 days. So
there is no point in time in 2020, 2021, 2022, or 2023 where he lost 9 months consecutively or stopped development for that period of time, since all these gaps are months apart and he only had COVID twice. Let's skip ahead to June 2024 and see what he says about these 4 years of development.
How long have you been working in this game? Was the coding a solo job? Yeah. Nobody else has touched the code base for Heartbound ever except for me. It's just me. I've been working on it for about 7 years, but I lost 2.5 years to COVID.
Okay, I hope at this point you realize his excuses for not working on Heartbound and his tweets are filled with complete BS.
Even in this situation, if you were the most charitable, okay, he lost the 9 months. That doesn't explain losing 2.5 years. An outrageous way to justify that he is just not a very quick writer, which seems to be the biggest issue is the writing, not the rest of it. But the reason that this was such a big deal is because this is kind of marking the deep dive into Heartbound. Another big part of this development hell thing being such a big issue is the fact that Heartbound had been in development for 7 years at this point. As a matter of fact, in regard to that, mass review bombing we had seen about Heartbound earlier, this was also some of the fans of the game getting annoyed because it had been over 7 years in development. Additionally, there was this huge 2-year gap between December 2023 when there were, more consistent updates and January 2025. Now, this kind of coincides with something that Steam had recently implemented at the time that the first review bomb had happened back in February of 2025. To help a consumer see that a game was still being consistently developed or it had clearly been abandoned by its developers, they started putting these little warnings in front of games that hadn't been updated. Here's that alert. Note, the last update made by the developers was over 13 months ago. The information and timeline described by the developers here may no longer be up to date. And you can see, yes, this was in regard to Heartbound. Pirate had actually made a comment about this around the time it happened, saying, for context, I had a conversation with Steam support regarding the label. At first, the support staff also didn't know what had caused the label, and then they figured it out in this thread. Apparently that label is applied and updated only by updating the primary branch for your game, meaning development branches or update posts have no meaning regardless of their content, which fucking duh. If you never made changes to the primary main branch of the game for consumers, you haven't really updated the game. But now with all this buzz around Heartbound and the development process and how long it's taken, people started, thinking about things, asking questions. If it's taken this long to develop, we've seen Pirate as this sort of person who's, worked at Blizzard for 7 years, has 20 years of game dev experience. How does Heartbound run? How well is it coded? Well, it turns out that Heartbound was coded apparently very poorly. In my best performing video to date, and the title that I am the happiest with, we have Pirate Software tried to crucify Coding Jesus. This is Coding Jesus. He's known as Coding Jesus, not because of his ego, but because he kind of looks like Jesus. He did not have very kind things to say about Pirate Software's code with Heartbound. The main issue is that Pirate Software responded to Coding Jesus's video talking about his code and that it was bad. And while there ended up being some points that were, kind of in favor of Pirate, being that it was Game Maker and Coding Jesus was not super, well informed about it, the vast majority of what Pirate attempted to do was just to slander and put into question Coding Jesus's reputation, what he was doing, why he was covering Pirate. And on top of that, this was Coding Jesus essentially responding to, Pirate's rebuttal to what he had to say about his coding. And I did my damned best to help in layman's terms explain what I think Coding Jesus was sharing with me about the code as well. TLDR, there's a lot of much simpler ways to do a lot of what Pirate was doing in his coding that number one would have saved him a shit ton of time, but number two would have made more sense given the reputation that he tried to give himself about having 20 years of game dev experience, 7 years at Blizzard. He had painted this image of himself that was like this incredible tech dude, an incredible developer that had this wealth of knowledge, but in practice it was clear that he had very little understanding of what he did, or at least comparatively to what people assumed he had, based again on how he portrayed himself.
I said, well, hey, let's take a look at his code now. The grift, maybe if I was this YouTuber with 30 subscribers and I had no previous history on YouTube, then you can say maybe I'm just trying to jump on some bandwagon. But I have consistent history of speaking to software engineers, doing code reviews, writing my own code, describing my own code, doing live streams about coding. So it's really just an ad hominem attack to try to bury me and shove all my legitimate criticism into my grave.
I included that clip there because I just think that that's a really important, again, kind of theme throughout all of this. Pirate really likes to, instead of facing a criticism head on and potentially, having an introspective look on himself, he kind of just tries to condemn everything entirely to essentially throw the baby out with the bathwater. And in turn, his audience gets to ignore the drama, but additionally, he never has to reflect, and he can also just throw it away, because why would I ever take advice from someone who is so terrible and so bad? He did it multiple times. In a small way, he did it to me in those DMs. He was like, you're just like a hate chaser. Just look at my Twitter reply. I'm not going to talk to Ross. I'm not going to talk to Ross because he's a used car salesman. He's disingenuous. Like, why would I ever interact with that? And also, which I just love, icing on top of the cake here, he makes a comment that he's like, oh, Coding Jesus should have just reached out to me. He fucking did.
Dude probably should have reached out instead of talking shit.
This part's extremely funny because I actually did reach out. So I was in his YouTube live stream and I said, hey, I'm making a video about you. I wanted him to respond and then we can talk about it. Now, I don't have proof that I did that. You'd have to take my word, but I did message him on his YouTube chat. And within like 3 seconds, when I said, I'm making a video about your code, I got banned and my message disappeared from his stream. So he's not interested in engaging with anybody. He lives in his own fortress. That's why it's so easy for him to say you should have just reached out to me. Because even if he did see that message, he would have never responded anyways. He would have just brushed it off and ignored it. The fact that he didn't respond to it explicitly is just a cover for him to say this guy never actually reached out.
Big thing for me is a pattern of behavior. Does somebody do the same thing over and over and over again? And at what point does that become like a part of who they are to such a degree that you can confidently believe and expect that from somebody? His responses back and forth with Coding Jesus about, the coding issues of Heartbound all culminated in Fridgebound. Essentially, Pirate Software was saying, well, one of my viewers was able to get Heartbound to run on a smart fridge. Therefore, the coding issues don't matter. Except Heartbound wasn't running on the smart fridge. The person who set it up was just using the smart fridge as a screen to mirror the game being played off of a laptop. Hello, Quintio of Pirate Past. For the record, the clip that I'm showing you guys, he showed over and over and over and over again on stream. First part of this video showing how many times that he did that. But this is that smart fridge clip in question. So he's taking a power bank, looks like a Raspberry Pi, and a laptop here. Yo. Now, additionally, I wanted to include this part here as we kind of like bring in the coding part of this to a close with Heartbound. To some degree, I see a different perspective than the one that Coding Jesus had shown me in the coverage that we had gone over together. Don't get me wrong. I think it's important to recognize the fact that Pirate Software, who seemed to have kind of, you know, elevated himself in a way that made it seem like he would be more competent when it comes to creating a game, coding it, developing it, etc. For me, the far more important aspect to this was the fact that there was a game that had been in development for 7 years that wasn't done yet. And from the perspective of a consumer, if the game runs well enough, if it runs at the correct benchmarks for most computers, like 60 FPS, I don't necessarily give a shit how badly the code is. Maybe to a developer who understands it, that is a horrific thing to look at, but for me, I just want the people that have, you know, put money into supporting the game, supporting Pirate Software, to get the full product that they had purchased. Obviously, you take that gamble when you're, you know, purchasing into an early access to a beta, obviously. But when it comes down to him, you know, scrubbing his code, making it cleaner, any of these other issues, I don't necessarily think that he would have to do that. I, like I think many of the people that had purchased the game, just want it to be done. And so for me, I don't think it was necessarily as important. I think it was educational that we got to learn about the coding aspects of it. But I think at the end of the day, him just getting it done, and or I should say, you know, focusing on the writing, because the writing's the real issue, I don't really have an issue with that. That's from the perspective of a consumer more than a coder. Interested to hear what you guys think, but continuing on. This leads us into the calm before the storm, so to speak. That's not really what it is, but I made a video called Pirate Software is Starting to Spiral. In this video, I went into detail covering some of the different people that are in his Discord that were trying to talk Pirate off a cliff. He was very clearly very interested in rebutting every single thing that came out about him, and, you know, in doing so kept creating more drama. One of the more interesting messages I'd seen him post, going to be real for the people in the back who don't get it, you know where this road of attacks and well poisoning ends? It ends with shutting down company and firing everyone if they manage to poison enough people. It ends with no longer being able to support the ferret rescue unless I can snag a job that supports it. People think this is some ego trip shit. Fuck no, I have people to take care of. Expertly separating himself and deflecting any blame that would be brought to himself to all of the people that are hating him. And we see people responding to him in the Discord multiple times. For this instance here, I think you're giving them satisfaction by even reacting to it. Other people responding to him, like countering this, is timing out and banning. Talking about it is just gonna rile up trolls more. Additionally, at this time, Pirate Software had started putting up a ban counter, and every time that a ban went through on his stream, it was making the number go up, and people were trying to shoot for 1,000 at least a day. Someone actually comments on this saying those people are coming here or to the stream and seeing you show numbers of bans you have. Without context, it looks like boasting. Trolls are giving that context already, and gamifying it with ban announcements and counters is just encouragement. You're gonna fight this fight for the rest of your career this way. Like, these were people in his Discord that were just generally being rational and trying to look out for the guy, and he was not having any of it. The thing that I found most interesting is that someone with what seemed to be a legitimate gripe had come in and kind of shared this issue, and they had been a viewer of him for quite some time. Talks about how the amount of content is disappointing for how long it's been in development. Someone tried to like push back, and he responds with, by the time the game is done, my son will be in college. And I might be misunderstanding, but are you saying it's not even halfway done? This is the person responding. I like Thor, but at this point I feel like my money has been wasted. Between buying the game, buying Heartbound merch, subscribing to his Twitch and YouTube, it just doesn't feel like I'm supporting an indie dev with a dream as much as a Twitch streamer with a side project. Its priorities have changed drastically. This is how Pirate responded to this person. Like, genuinely, what seems to be the most genuine, honest criticism that's just raw. That's just real. How would you respond to something like that? Some, like, I would say objective criticism in voicing their concerns with you. Now I'm going to show you the direct opposite of whatever you just came up with. Pirate Software responds to them saying, Doomer detected. Honestly, if all you're going to do is Doom post, just wait for me to be done and stop busying yourself with it. I'm literally writing right now, lol. Then it looks like that message got deleted. They might have been banned from the Discord. I'm not sure, but that message gets deleted. And then Pirate responds to it, good faith criticism is not claiming that your son will be in college by the time the game comes out. It's just stating things as raw and aggressive as possible while being an ass about it. Fuck's sake. That's what Pirate got out of that message? Brother's just telling you that life has moved on for him and that his kid has grown up into a fucking adult. He's trying to make a point, brother. And this is just rich. Pirate Software then says, you can just be like, hey man, when is this coming out? Not writing a novel about all the imaginary shit that is going to happen before it does. I'm sorry, is Pirate Software critiquing or policing someone else and how they're using tact? A dude that can't help but be arrogant even in the face of a therapist calling him out for being arrogant? A man who can't help but respond to every single criticism as condescendingly as possible? He's the guy giving lessons on tact in his Discord? For me, this was the tipping point, you know, looking back now, of me kind of recognizing that Pirate Software is incapable of taking this criticism. Not because he can't take criticism, but because he's incapable of believing that he deserves criticism in some type of way. He might say that he's able to handle criticism, things like that, but his behavior shows very clearly that there's always a reason that anyone that is giving him any sort of, you know, criticism is wrong. That, like, there's something about what they're talking about that is fundamentally untrue, which completely, you know, destroys any chance of this criticism being useful or valid. Like, this is the type of ego that I don't even know if therapy actually helps. I don't know if Pirate or anyone that is like this can get to a point where they would actually be able to, you know, engage with therapy in a helpful or useful way. But leading up after this starts the third final major plot point of this whole thing. I put out the video, Pirate Software just got caught. TLDR, I found out through someone mentioning it and finding it in my Discord that some dude had posted on Twitter this screenshot from Pirate Software's stream where he was talking with Kronos. The exchange made it clear that Kronos was buying bits for the hype train and buying subs for the hype train to keep it moving along. This appeared to be, especially initially at the time, as something pretty bad, which, I mean, I would still say is pretty bad, although I said that there might have been alleged, you know, breaches of Twitch terms of service or potential legal ramifications from this kind of getting caught out. But after speaking with experts in both fields, which we'll be getting into, doesn't appear that that ended up actually spelling legal or Twitch consequences on either side of that. I was clear about this in my follow-up videos, but also wanted to say it here as well. Again, too, shout out to Scorpion from MK. They are a member of Kiwi Farms, and they were the individual that had the VOD saved from this situation. Truly, this video would not have been more than just a speculation on this screenshot even being real without this individual having this VOD archived. And of course, it shows up in the VOD as well, this screenshot, and we're able to verify that it is indeed Pirate Software and his, you know, messages with Kronos. Now, I think with the legal stuff out of the way, the biggest other issue is that this was very clearly done under wraps. They were trying to be deceptive. Kronos had done it on an alt account, Serendipitous Bean. He also did a lot of donations under his own name with, I believe it was tier 3 subs he had also put with his main account. On top of that, just to add to the deceptive bit, Pirate knew Serendipitous Bean was the alt account, and he acted like he didn't know who it was.
Serendipitous Bean with 50,000 bits said IRL friend of Kronos and excited that they are now free from corporate.
I know.
Love your stream and what you do for people here. There aren't many cool or supportive streamers left once they get big like this. Stay cool, bud, and tell Kronos that Ben sends their regards.
I'm sorry you had to know Kronos in real life, just like me.
500 bits said, when is Yar pregnant man going to be real?
He had to do a little glazing for his boss, but oh my god, that was painful, knowing now that that is actually Kronos. Now, to kind of add a bit more detail to this hype train fiasco, I just want to include a few clips of me covering it when I had Legal Mindset on as the lawyer. Now, he said that there were possible legitimate legal gripes because consumers were being deceived. You know, they thought that this was a organic hype train that was receiving donations from, you know, complete strangers, things like that, you know, with Kronos being on an alt account, things like that. But in this, I also point out that not only did they say that, you know, he was never reimbursed, he was not reimbursed for donating these subs, we also find out that just a few months before that, they said publicly that half of the Giga Train hype train that they were doing was going to the staff, which means he was getting reimbursed. He was getting reimbursed a piece of that pie that the team was getting from half of the hype train. He was incentivized to keep it moving. Secondly, a reason that Kronos had given for why he was using an alt account is that people were getting harassed for donating onto pirate streams, something that was happening more and more since the start of the OnlyFans drama from earlier that year. Except that made absolutely no sense. My biggest issue with this argument that he made, which was he didn't want to get harassment, is number one, he did 100 tier 1 subs on his personal account before he did the others on the alternate account. So his name was already there. They deleted the VODs after. So in two separate ways, you tried to in two separate ways. Number one, it would have been corrected because the VODs were deleted. And number two, the first thing you did was donate 100 tier 1 subs under your main account. So that doesn't add up with what you were trying to prevent. That does not explain, like, your behavior is not matching up with the excuse you're giving. Where I guess then that makes it feel more like an excuse.
Yeah, exactly. No, it absolutely does. And once again, this is unnecessary. I think overall as a construction, it's unnecessary deception. Like, this could have been all mitigated by just being upfront with it. And I understand. Look, you know, harassment in certain circumstances can be very real and very serious. You know, and there are certain circumstances where yes, you want to prevent that and you want to take measures to do that. But in this particular case, I don't think it was necessary for Pirate, especially ex post facto after the fact, to try to hide the ball.
Last thing I wanted to include here, I had a DM exchange with Kronos where he sent me this screenshot of him chatting with Pirate leading up to what we saw screenshotted during the hype train. And he's got this really cool message that just kind of explains what he plans to do with these tier 100 drops, all this stuff. And it just, you know, perfectly explains away the situation. And down below, it says edited. I asked Kronos to hover over that because if you hover over it on desktop, you're able to see when it was edited. Kronos had been on vacation at the time that we were exchanging these DMs. So I figured, hey, you know, once he gets back, he can show. But he never ended up doing this. As a matter of fact, he unfriended me a few short days later, and to this day has still never confirmed that. I just think that it would be a huge help, or I should say it would have been a huge help for him and Pirate to just verify that, give an extra bit of credibility that was always...
All right, then. Again, my back is like really hurt. I do hate to say this, but I've been getting like much and more like lazy lately. I really need to fix whatever is like wrong with my back, so I can stream much more better. And my computer is dying, Sally. I'm not even kidding about it. My computer is dying, and with the stuff like going on this time of days, I feel really sad about it because, like, you know, there's so many things that stuff can happen. It's just sad. It's just sad. But at least it's like not dying from making artwork. It's just, you know, dying from like, streaming, you know, doing game and stream at the same times. Like, all those things is like taking like a toll on the computers. It is what it is. Might not be able to like stream games properly even when I wanted to. I might have to go for like faceless streamers, or I have to like create my own like reactive again for myself to use, and I have no idea how to like post my character at all. Either way, thank you very much for watching, and as always, guys, stay healthy, stay safe, and I finished like 2 scenes. We'll be making more soon. Bye-bye.